Donald Trump's interview with Piers Morgan, the topic of Trump's war dodging, or draft dodging, I should say, came up, and the answer was incredible. Let's take a look.
You were not able to serve in Vietnam because of a bone spur condition in your feet. Do you wish you'd been able to serve? Would you like to have served your country?
Well, I was never a fan of that war, I'll be honest with you. I thought it was a terrible war. I thought it was very far away. Nobody ever, you're talking about Vietnam, and at that time, nobody ever heard of the country.
Would you like to have served generally, perhaps in another?
I would not have minded that at all. I would have been honored, but I think I'd make up for it right now. Look, $700 billion I gave last year, and then this year $716 billion. And I think I'm making up for it rapidly because we're rebuilding our military at a level that it's never seen.
I'm making up for it rapidly because we're rebuilding our military. First of all, what do you mean by rebuilding our military? Our military was still, and has been the most powerful military in the world, okay? And secondly, you're not rebuilding anything. You are taking taxpayer money and increasing funding to an already bloated military budget, and the vast majority of that money doesn't go to our soldiers. Our soldiers are notoriously underpaid. The vast majority of that money goes to private military contractors.
Thank you.
So you're not building anything, okay?
That's the whole mess. I mean, the idea that he supports the military or the troops or the guys is so absurd. I mean, even when he did that benefit, remember early during the campaign?
That charity, yeah, that fundraiser.
The Washington Post had to get him to actually donate the money to the vets.
Exactly, he wasn't even planning on giving that money to the veterans that he did the charity or the fundraising for. And then-
I didn't know that you only had to serve if you were a fan of a war. Yeah, that's right. I think he's thinking about the KISS Army.
No, but look, Dana, you don't understand. Vietnam is very far away.
It's very far away.
And nobody even knew what Vietnam was.
When there's a war in Maine, if I'm a fan,
I'll take a meeting.
If I'm a fan.
Yeah, it's funny because all those guys who are going to Vietnam were just skipping and happily running to those personnel carriers as they were carried oftentimes to their death. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and again, but he has a lot of support among the military.
Why is that? So
they say that the arc of justice is long, but it bends towards justice.
Does it really?
I find that the arc of Trump support is wide, but it bends towards ding-dongs.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. It really doesn't make sense to me because here's a man who, look, on one hand, his rhetoric on pulling troops out of some of the nonsensical wars that we've been engaged in is appealing, right? It's appealing to me, I'm sure it's appealing to those soldiers as well. But then on the other hand, you have him provoking Iran, and there's a possibility that we could engage in yet another war, this time with Iran. So he's putting people's lives in danger over this nonsense. There was fear, and I still have fear, that there's gonna be a regime change war in Venezuela. How are you gonna support this guy? He's just idiotic and has shown over and over again that he doesn't respect the troops. He has said horrible things about soldiers and members of the military, previous members of the military that he just disagrees with. It's crazy.
But it's hard to explain, and I don't think it's an American issue. It's humanity. The best American president to be in the United States military was Jimmy Carter. He was the least aggressive with our military. So if you were I had two brothers that were in the military in the 70s, and I have them both still. But that's, again, it goes to people tend to project what they want to see in themselves. And I think, he seems tough. People think that they're tough, so I like that person.
He dodged the draft by pretending by getting a doctor.
I'm not defending it.
No, I know, but I'm not responding to you specifically, but to that type of thinking.
By the way, so did John Wayne. So did Ronald Reagan.
Right.
It doesn't.
Oh, well, anybody with money was dodging the draft in a number of ways. But I think
John Wayne dodged the draft in World War II. And he was a fan.
Wow.
Yeah, right. He was a fan.
He was a fan. He was a big fan. So it's just one of those Humans are great. Humans are always awesome.
Plus, I think this sort of this swagger that he has, that machismo swagger, the smack-talking Iran and smack-talking Venezuela, the problem is you can back into a shooting war so easily, and now we have more troops that are down there with a mission that's sort of very vague. That's what worries me. He doesn't make any considered decisions. He makes these sort of, volcanic decisions, and they end up sometimes with the volcano going off. I mean, I think there is real potential for a shooting war in a lot of places.
Remember when he sent members of the military to the border for that nonsense, like national emergency? And some of them, actually most of them, I think, missed Thanksgiving with their families over that. Like, I'm bringing up all of these examples because he doesn't respect the troops.
No, they're pawns.
Right.
To him, they're just political pawns.
Yes, I mean,
I would bet, and you can hear it in, people think in language. Well, I gave them. He thinks they work for him. I think he sees the troops, the landscapers, the dog walker. They're all of a piece. Well, he doesn't like dogs, but they're all of a piece.
Oh my God, he doesn't like dogs. He's a monster.
That's right out of the gate, the weird thing. He doesn't like dogs.
Who doesn't like dogs?
Yeah, it says something for sure.
If you're a member of TYT, I'm not judging you, but who doesn't like dogs, right?
Well, dogs love bones, and maybe he's afraid that they will go after his Spurs because they're so succulent.
It all comes together, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I can't remember which foot it was on, to be fair. So that dog's gonna have to do a lot of sniffing to find it. Anyway, and then one final point I wanna make. Trump seems to think that because he doesn't know something, that no one knows the same thing. Like, no one knew where it was. No one knew where it was. No one had never heard of Vietnam. No, you maybe didn't know where Vietnam was, or you didn't know what Vietnam was. But don't pretend as if no one else knew these things, right? It reminds me of his comments about healthcare and how he had said nobody knew it was so complicated. No, everyone knows it's complicated. In fact, everyone complains that it's too complicated, which is part of the problem. Which is why people aren't getting the authorizations they need for the medical procedures that they need to get done to survive and to live.
Yeah, I have a feeling that everybody who thought that they might have to serve in Vietnam knew exactly where it was.
Right. Exactly.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.